Does art need to teach us something, or is it enough for it to simply be beautiful? Hello everyone, I am Kevisemeü, a postgraduate from English Literature, and today I will be talking on the topic Aestheticism, a movement that believed that beauty alone is enough. Aestheticism was a late 19th century European literary and artistic movement that believed art exists for beauty, not for morality, politics, or any social reform. Its famous idea was art for art's sake. Now, what if I told you that art does not need a purpose? In a world where everything must be useful, aestheticism dared to say that art exists for beauty. Aestheticism in literature, it refers to a movement that emphasizes the intrinsic value of art, prioritizing beauty, form, and sensory experiences over moral, social, and even political concerns. Aestheticism is also rooted in the belief that primary purpose of art is to provide the beauty and pleasure rather than to serve any didactic or moral functions. Influenced by the philosophy of Immanuel Kant and his idea art for art's sake, aestheticism separates art from social, political, and even utilitarian purposes. Now coming to the key concepts of aestheticism, the first is art for art's sake. Now this idea means that art does not need to teach anything, it does not need to give a moral lesson, support politics, or even improve the society. It only needs to be beautiful or enjoyable. In simple words, if something is beautiful, that is enough. It does not need to have a purpose. One example that we can take from this concept is, imagine you draw a sunset just because you love the color, be it pink, orange, or purple. Someone asks what message you are trying to give here, and you may just say, no message, I just like how it looked. Now that is art for art's sake. You are not trying to teach someone about the climate change or about the sadness. You are just trying to create something beautiful. Another concept is the autonomy of arts. Autonomy simply means independence. This idea says art is separate from religion, politics, morality, and even social rules. In simple words, art does not need to follow society's expectations. One example that we can draw from this concept is, suppose a singer writes about a song and it talks about loneliness, but people say, why don't you write a patriotic song? That's more useful. And suppose the singer replies, he writes about what he feels and not for social use. This is the autonomy of art. The art is independent and it is not to create or serve any social purpose. Another key concept that we find under this movement is the sensory experience. Aestheticism also focuses on how art makes you feel through your senses, sight, sound, touch, and even imagination. It cares about the beautiful words, the musical language, the rich imagery, and even the emotional atmosphere. Now, in simple words, art should make you feel something deeply. Now, example, think about listening to a soft romantic song at night. It does not teach you anything, but however, the music, the voice, and even the mood, it makes you feel calm, dreamy, and even emotional. Now, that feeling is important, and that feeling is actually what aestheticism values. It is the experience of beauty. Aestheticism believes that art should exist plainly and purely just for beauty. It does not need to have a social purpose, or it does not need to serve moral or social purposes. Instead, it values the artistic independence and even values the emotional and sensory experiences that the art creates in a viewer or the reader. Now I'll be talking on the influence of aestheticism on literature. Now, aestheticism changed literature by shifting attention from story and moral lesson to style, beauty, and even the atmosphere. Now first is the sensory language and the rich description. Aesthetic writers use colorful imagery, decorative descriptions, musical rhythms in sentences, symbols instead of direct explanations. They wanted readers to feel the beauty of languages also. For example, instead of writing "the garden was beautiful," aesthetic writers might also write something like "the garden shimmered under the golden dusk." So here they focused on how it sounds and feels like and not what it teaches. Another influence that the aesthetic writers has on literature can be the beauty as the central goal. Writers try to create the artistic perfection in form and style. Even sadness, decay, and even darkness could be described beautifully. For example, Les Fleurs du Mal by Charles Baudelaire, he turns themes like sin and even urban corruption into highly musical and even symbolic poetry. Now here we see that the content matters less than the experience of reading it. Now coming to some major literary figures, we have Oscar Wilde, known for works like The Picture of Dorian Gray and even The Importance of Being Earnest. Wilde epitomized aestheticism by combining wit, critique of Victorian society, and even the celebration of beauty. Another major literary figure we find is Walter Pater. His essay, The Renaissance, it is a seminal work of aestheticism, advocating the idea that life itself should be lived as a work of art. Next major literary figure that we find is Charles Baudelaire. His poetry in Les Fleurs du Mal focused on the exploration of beauty, scene, and even experience, often prioritizing aesthetic values over moral judgments. Aestheticism, it influenced modernist writers like aesthetic writers. Modernists also questioned the role of literature in society, experimented with form and structure, focused on the artistic freedom. In simple words, modernist writers learned from aestheticism that literature does not have to follow a traditional rule, it can break structure and even focus on artistic styles. The lasting impact on art and criticism. Aestheticism's idea that art should be independent had a long-lasting effect on the people. It changed on how people create art, study literature, and even judge literary works. Even today, many critics believe that art should be appreciated for its beauty and technique, not just for its moral or political message. Aestheticism changed the way that literature was understood by placing beauty at the center of its artistic creation. It argued that art does not need to serve morality, politics, or even society, but can exist independently for the sake of beauty and even sensory experiences. This belief in artistic freedom influenced later modernist writers who also experimented with form and even questioned traditional expectations of literature. Even in literary criticism today, the legacy of aestheticism remains visible in approaches that value style, imagery, structure, and even emotional impact over moral or political interpretations. Thus, aestheticism does not only celebrate beauty, but permanently reshape the way art is celebrated, studied, and even appreciated. Now, standing here in the middle of all this green, no one is asking these trees for a message, no one is demanding a lesson from the sky. They are beautiful, and that is enough. And that is the heart of aestheticism. Thank you.